Hey there, in this video clip, we're going to walk you through how to describe and show an example of the computer making an image. Okay, so we want to make sure you can prove that you have an idea of how a computer can take binary, so it's binary information, binary signals of on and off, use that in order to create an image. So how do computers represent images using binary? That's what we're going to kind of illustrate here. Okay, in order to make it easy, we're going to use something called the spreadsheet to accomplish that. So you should go to sheets.google.com, spelled like this: sheets, sheets, .google.com. Make sure you're logged into your school account before you do that, and then you should see something like what I have here. And then you're going to go ahead and click on this plus sign for a blank sheet. Once you do that, you should see something like this. So this is a blank worksheet that we have, and we're in a workbook. So this is a special program called a spreadsheet. All right. Again, we're going to use it just to make it easier for us to prove and provide an example of a computer creating an image. All right. So what we have here are a bunch of columns. So you see A, B, C, D, and it keeps going all the way to Z. So we've got all these columns, and then we have a ton of rows. Okay, we want 16 of them. All right, so columns we want 16. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the quick way. I'm going to right click on the C. So I'm going to find the C, not when the little hand is present, but when the arrow is present. So I'm going to right click with my mouse and choose delete column. And you're going to keep deleting columns. I know it might seem like you're not, but check it out. When I move over to the right, there I could see that the Z is gone. Watch. The X is there. I'm going to right click on the P and delete, and you can see it moved over. So it might not look like you're deleting much, but you in fact are. So I'm going to go ahead and keep deleting here. And then you can also delete multiple columns. If I click there and hold across and I select a lot of them, I can delete many of them. If you can't figure that out, that's fine. Just go ahead and go one at a time there. All right. So I want to get to P actually, because P is a 16 column. Oops, I went too much. So I want to right click here and insert a column back to the right, because letter P is the 16th column. Okay, now I'm going to scroll over here to get all that in place. I want to get all those columns to fit in here, so click on this corner square. This is like this master square that selects everything. Once you have that selected, you see the lines between the A and the B and the C. Those little lines let you resize the column. So I'm going to move my mouse over it, and then you see those two little arrows. That's going to let me resize the column. So I'm going to go ahead and make it narrower there, and that made all of the columns narrower. So I can see all of them now. And now I want 16 of these. So I don't want anything after 16. So again, you can click on this one at a time, but you're going to go crazy if you do that, because there's so many. There's like, look, I'll scroll all the way down. There's 1,000 of them. So one way to do that is I'm going to select a couple of them like that, right click and say delete rows. And I'm going to repeat that. Again, it seems like you're not doing anything, but you are. Delete, right click, delete. It's slowly moving its way up. Okay. And if I did it over a larger amount of them, I would get through these faster. So I'm going to go ahead and do a larger set of them. Delete all of these rows, delete all of these rows, do it again. So it's just they're like scooting up, and so it seems like they're not being deleted, but they are, I promise. Whoops. Oh no, I think I added them. Let me get rid of a bunch more. We're 16. Okay. Delete, 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 delete. Okay, so now I've got 16 and 16. So I'll click on that corner square again, and I'll make these a little bit smaller. I'm just trying to make them like a square. And with the rows, same thing. If you want to make them a little taller, you can. So they go a little taller, a little wider. And you'll notice that if I just resize one like that, you see only that one gets resized, right? But if I click on this corner one, it resizes all of them to match the one that I just changed. All right, so there we go. We've got our 16 by 16 grid. Now a computer would call each of these little squares a pixel. So right now the screen that you're looking at has a bunch of these little squares. They're called pixels, okay? But they're so tiny you can barely see them. So if you basically put your nose against the computer screen and looked very closely, you would see a bunch of these little squares. Honestly, your computer is made up of a bunch of tiny little squares of lights, and they're lit up, and so they make an image. And so what we're going to do right now is we're kind of teach each of these squares to display a color depending on what's in it. Now, if you recall, hopefully you do or not, maybe you've reviewed this, a computer works with electricity. So either the electricity could be off, that's represented with a 0, or it could be on, which is represented with a 1. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this system, which has two symbols, either off or on. And depending on what electrical signal we got, we're going to go ahead and display a color. Okay. So we'll just make it easy. If it's off, we're going to go ahead and display black. But if it's on, we're going to display white. Okay, so I'm sorry. On, this one will be black, and off be white. Okay, so those are going to be our rules. So if it's off, it's going to be white. If it's on, it's going to be black. Okay, so we're going to teach this square here that if there's a signal of on or 1, it should turn black. But if in here we have an off, it's going to be white. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to show that with one example here. So you have this square, or this pixel, I should say. Let me just type that out so you know what I'm saying here. So it's pixel. Each little square is called a pixel. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click on that. Go to Format. We're going to choose Conditional Formatting. So condition means, you know, that something is true or not. So what are we going to say? So we're going to say in A1, which is A1, that little square, if the text is exactly a 0, so if it's a 0, we're going to tell the paint bucket that it should make it white. All right, so we hit done. And then we're going to add another rule. So these are the rules that it's following, that little square. Add another rule. If A1, so that's the same one, if A1, if the text is exactly a 1, then we're going to make it black. All right, so now we're going to test it. See how those two rules apply to that one? If I click on another cell, there's no rules. If I click on that cell, A1, it's got these two rules. So now let's test it out. If I change that to a 1, backspacing for 1, it's black. If I change it to a 0, it's white. Okay, and so now we've got those different behaviors there. So using two signals, either on or off, we've got this already representing something, right? Or showing a color. So let's delete this stuff here. I'm going to just delete. I choose it and delete it. So now we're going to go through and we're going to apply that same rule to all of these. Okay, so let's just delete what's in there and we're going to select. I'm going to click here. Actually, you can click on this top left corner because we're going to give the same rule to all of them. Let's delete this, delete this. And so all of these are selected. We're all going to have them all follow the same rule. So from A1 to P16, what rule do we want to create? We want to say if text contains, if text is exactly, make sure this is all selected. If text is exactly a 0, we want to show white. But you know what? Let's be a little bit safer. Let's choose light gray. This way we can see a difference. So light gray. All right, hit done. And we'll test this out. Put a 0 here, a 0 here, and look, you can see it's turning light gray. So we know it's working. Now let's do the other rule. So select everything, top left corner, add another rule. If from A1 to P16, so that's correct, if text is exactly a 1, we're going to fill this in with black and hit done. Okay, so now let's test this out. And it's working, right? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to fill everything with a value for right now. So we're going to fill it in with a 0. So I want you to go through and put a 0 all of the first row. Okay, once you got the first row, I'm going to show you a shortcut. You see this little blue square? You're going to drag that down. And then repeat for these. You're dragging it down and you're just filling it in. This is just saving you time from like copying and pasting. All right. You can actually do multiple ones, but if you mess this up, you're going to have to fix whatever you mess up. All right. So here I've got all of these. All right. So I've got them all showing a binary signal of off. Right. And so when it's off, that's like it's white. And now we're going to go ahead and fill in some values here. I'm going to go ahead and fill these in with a 1. 1, 1. Let's see. I'm going to put all of these, so just make sure you're matching what I'm doing here. Oops, let's leave that as a 0. Let's see. Go all the way across. All right, making our way through this. Fill all these. All right. What we're doing is we're making an image here. It's just a black and white image, but at least we're getting them filled in here. So this is going to be a little tree here. And this is going to represent a little sun. All right. Now we're going to fill in the land. So here's a little tree, the sun. I know it's like, huh? That's a little tree. Well, it's our little tree, right? And then let's come in here, and we're going to go ahead and say we've got a few kind of like apples in the tree. We're going to put some apples in here. All right, there we go. We got a small little kind of apple tree with the sun and the ground. All right, so that's our first example of using binary to represent an image, right? So we're going to go ahead and come up here where it says untitled spreadsheet, and let's say 1-bit image, because when you put a 0 or a 1, you use 1 bit. That's what we call the signals. A signal is called a bit, and the bit can either be an off like it is here or an on like it is here. And you know what? Let's make this easier to see. Click on the top left corner again, and then go to your text color, and let's go ahead and choose let's choose like a pink, just so that we can see what's going on. Okay, so here we could see everywhere there's a 1 is black, and everywhere there's a 0, right, there's a white. I know it's gray, but it's just so that we could see it. There's a white. All right. Okay, so this is known as a 1-bit image because every pixel, right, every pixel, each square or pixel only has 1 bit, either an off or an on. And so if we were to ask you how many colors can you make with 1 bit, hopefully you can answer that. There's 2 colors, either a black or there's a white. So a color, the number of colors that 1 bit can make are 2 colors. All right. So that takes care of our first small example there. So we're going to come down. We call this, oh, actually, this is called, let's see, binary images. I made a mistake there. Binary images. And down here, see where it says sheet? You're going to click on that arrow, choose rename, and let's call this 1-bit image. So I'm down here in the tab, 1-bit image. All right.